PANTERA, making it the Great Southern Trendkill. Let's jump into this. I thought this was great. This is only 10 minutes long, so let's jump into this to end the show. We'll get a little bit of our music fix, and if you guys like this, maybe I'll start adding some more music content into this channel. So here we go. PANTERA, the story of the Great Southern Trendkill. Here we go.
The mid-90s were a weird time for metal. Even pioneers Metallica, who went pretty commercial with 1991's The Black Album, followed it up with an even more commercial record with 1996's Load and the following year's Reload.
By the way, did you know that the cover of Load was supposedly like a money shot? There's supposedly a cum shot there.
1996's Load and
the more you know.
Reload. Not to mention a full image makeover with shorter.
You got to remember that this was a time where Metallica was coming off of the long hair thrash metal that they kind of revolutionized in the 80s throughout the early 90s and did a complete flip. A little bit more commercial look, cut their hair, did a different like rebranding, which worked for them. They're still the biggest metal band in the world, so shout out to them. But it definitely pissed a lot of people off in the metal community. I remember because I was there. I was one of them.
For hair, more artsy album covers and videos. To some fans, it was a betrayal or worse, selling out. But that's something PANTERA fans could never say about their band. With each release, PANTERA seemed...
See, now that looks like a metal band right there, guys. I'm sorry. PANTERA just had the metal look that all the metal bands wanted to look like. Even into the early 2000s, even to when I started playing music, everybody looked back at PANTERA like that's how a metal band should look. Thank you, Rick, for dropping those links, man. Appreciate it.
To fly in the face of whatever was popular at the time. And as metal seemed irrelevant by 1996, the band would proceed to write their heaviest record yet with their 8th studio album, The Great Southern Trendkill.
Great Southern Trendkill was my favorite album that they put out because it was the album that introduced me to PANTERA. Drag the Waters was on the radio, and that was a big hit amongst all the kids my age at the time. And then you go to the record store, you go to Best Buy, CDs, whatever, and you look at this cover, and you're just like, this cover right here, that is what a metal band cover should look like. Look at that Diamondback rattlesnake, just evil as fuck. PANTERA, the Great Southern Trendkill. That was something else right there. Like, that is hard to beat, man, even to this day. Sheldon Martin for $5. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. He says, how many pages are you planning for the next Reaper? Here's money. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Reaper Destroyer is going to be one. It's going to be less. So it's not going to be $25. Now I have to figure out exactly what I'm charging for it because it's going to be anywhere from 24 pages to 32. If it's under 30 pages, it's going to be $15. If it's over 30 pages or that 32 mark, then it's going to be $20. But I want to make it a little bit cheaper, but I don't want to do another 40-page book because they take forever. I want to get this book out faster to you guys. And any way I can do that is my kind of goal. And I'm just, I'm here to make floppies, not graphic novels. I got a story to tell. It's a serialized story. It's an ongoing story being in the first story arc. So I want to kind of limit the pages so we can do a little bit more focus on certain scenes and slow burn the story instead of trying to fit so much into 40 pages or 50 pages. So yeah, there you go. 24 to 32 pages. Right now it's looking like probably 32. And that could be around $15 to $20 when I launch it. But thank you, Sheldon. Appreciate you, man. Vulgar Displays, my favorite, but Southern is pushing for #1. Vulgar is great too, man. I like all the PANTERA albums. Every single one has a place in my heart.
The band's previous release, 1994's Far Beyond Driven.
Yeah, that's a great
one
album
too. That surprised many people.
#1, debuting a metal band, unheard of. Debuting at #1. It was only for like 2 weeks, but it still counts. Far Beyond Driven, #1. Just absolutely shot these guys to stardom after Vulgar. Vulgar broke the mold. They came off of Cowboys from Hell, doing a little bit more of that like high singing, still kind of 80s metal thrash sound. And a little Judas Priest, with the vocals there with Phil Anselmo. They smashed the mold, though. They went straight like chunky rhythm punk, heavy riff style. The vocals got heavier, more gritty, more raw with Phil on Vulgar Display. And then they came out with Far Beyond Driven, and it was just a polished sound. It was just amazing. #1. Freaked everybody out.
When it debuted at the #1 spot on the Billboard charts. The album didn't get much love from rock radio or a lot of attention from MTV, so some wondered, where could the band go next? PANTERA would begin work on their follow-up record in the fall of 1990.
The thing, too, about PANTERA is they were very anti-establishment Not because it was trendy, not because it was cool. It's just because that's what it was. They didn't get a lot of love from the radio stations or MTV, like I said. They were a true grassroots kind of band. They created a following, and that following was fierce. And they came out to all the shows, packed stadiums, packed arenas, packed clubs. And it didn't matter they didn't have that number one hit or a number video on. They did have videos, but it wasn't like heavily played on the pop culture there, MTVs or the radio. But they still dominated the metal scene. Probably the most popular metal band of the '90s, hands down. Hands down.
5, perhaps against their better judgment. But their record label wanted a new record with bassist Rex Brown telling Guitar World. We were also burned out by that point. A lot of the discipline and structure we used to have went out the window. Pantera's songwriting process up until this point saw guitarist Dimebag Darrell bring tapes of riffs to the band, where they would proceed to write fully fleshed out songs. But things were different this time around, according to Brown, who would recall to author John Wiederhorn. Dime used to bring a riff tape in and say, okay, here's what we have to work with. And that wasn't happening as much as the riff tape was wearing out. So we just go in there and all start playing. It's funny because kids go, Great Southern was the best record you ever put out. And I go, how could that be? Because it happened in such an off the cuff way.
I think that's what made the album great, is you had these really great, structured album. Far Beyond Driven was probably their most structured album. It was just a beautifully written album. The sound was so great, the tones and everything, the songwriting was great. You had great hooks, catchy riffs, the vocals are awesome, memorable songs. And then you get Great Southern Trendkill came out, and it was just like a hit to the face, like a boot to the face. It was just straight, more thrashy. Yeah, someone maybe a little bit more unorganized, and maybe they didn't like that from their structure. I get it, and they're going to talk about this in this video here with some of the issues they had writing this album. But maybe some of that chaos is what made this album so special. And a lot of people my age, in their late or early 40s or late 30s, absolutely have this album in great reverence. Burnout, welcome to the chat. Appreciate you. Says, do you like Superjoint Ritual? Yes, I do. Superjoint Ritual, specifically their first album. Their second album is good. I know they made a third album not too long ago as well, which I haven't really dug too much into that. But their first album, when that came out, was awesome. Because that was like, Pantera had kind of was stalled. Phil was doing his own thing. You had Down out there, and Down's another great band. But Superjoint was like the closest to that Pantera feel, because even though it wasn't the same kind of southern thrash, southern groove that Dime was doing, but it had more of that New Orleans kind of flavor, indie sound to it. But then you had Phil just raw vocals, and there's something very special about that first album. The second album was okay, but that first album, Superjoint, yeah, that was really, really good.
We didn't even go back and re-record it, he would say. But Dimebag told a different story when he was interviewed by Guitar World, revealing that some of the riffs off the album were old, including fan favorite Floods, which dated back to the group's club days in 1988, when he would improvise solos on stage, while some of the other riffs dated back to the early 90s. The band's original plan was to record the album in Dallas, about 45 minutes from Dimebag's Arlington home, but as the guitarist told Guitar World in 1996, those plans changed, recalling,
oh shit, man, I gotta take a look at the leaderboard there. Sheldon Martin is coming and taking over that number 1 spot. Rick has fallen to 3, and Dennis Kelly has gone up to number 2. This has been a great competition tonight, guys. Keep it up. This has been fun to watch. Who is going to get that number 1 spot at the end of the night? Is it going to be newcomer Sheldon Martin? We're going to find out. Where did Bo Biggs go?
I've got to tell you, bro, I wasn't into the idea at all. You wake up, you jump into your hot rod, but by the time everybody's made it to the studio, somebody's hungry, so you got to go out and get a bite to eat. That leaves you unmotivated. So you sit around and watch the big screen TV, play pool, and drink beer. I didn't want that to happen, so we just did it here. It was following the band's last tour that the guitarist built a studio in a barn in his backyard called Chase and Jason Studios. With him adding to Guitar World, it started off as a jam room, but then we decided to do our demos here, so we brought in some gear. The demos were so tough and lethal sounding that we were like, man, that's almost it, right?
Yeah, sometimes you get big enough, you create your own studio like Pantera did, and there's definitely a different feel to it. I mean, they were produced for the first 3 albums, I want to say, and then I think Vinnie Paul co-produced Great Southern Trendkill, and they recorded it in a different area. And there's some factors that I think go into like the the raw and pain of this album that makes it stand out from all the rest. But this was right before Reinventing the Steel, where they produced their entire thing. Vinny produced it, and they recorded it themselves. And you could see the maturation process of this band. And the last album doesn't get a lot of love because they ended up breaking up because 9/11 happened. I think they were in Osaka, Japan, I think, when that happened. And then they never played again. And then they kind of took a hiatus. Phil was doing his drug thing, doing Super Joint and Down. And then Dime and Vinny did Damage Plan, and then Dime was murdered, and that was kind of it. So the last album, Reinventing the Steel, didn't give as much love, but it's a fantastic album. It might be my second favorite to Great Southern Trendkill. I don't know. Like, I like them all. It's hard when you really sit down, but it could be.
But not everything went smoothly in the makeshift studio. As bassist Rex Brown recalled to Wiederhorn, he put up 3 walls and made a studio inside of it. It was quite an experience. We had built all these ISO caps to get the sound down, but we had a huge phase control problem. That's why it's called Chase and Jason Studios, because there was always something effing wrong. There was buzz going around the whole effing place, and that on top of the fact that we were making our most experimental record ever, something that sometimes didn't even have a coherent structure to it, made us all crazy. But the band's recording plans soon hit a wall. While frontman Phil Anselmo was present for the demos, he was dealing with serious back pain. He wasn't interested in getting...
This is actually kind of the fall of Pantera, really, when you think about it. It's why this album is so interesting. Like, it was so great, but this was actually kind of the start of the end. Phil was having so many problems. This kind of put him into the drug abuse that he kind of went in through starting in 96, the beginning of 96, and really was up and down with heroin and different drugs, drinking very heavily. Kind of started the downfall, but just damn, what a good album.
Surgery due to the long recovery time, which could have lasted anywhere from a year to a year and a half. So instead, the frontman self-medicated, turning to heroin and painkillers. Anselmo soon isolated himself from the rest of the band, setting up shop in New Orleans at Trent Reznor's Nothing Studios, while the rest of the...
Now, I don't know if he mentions it here in this video, but Phil was from New Orleans. So the Pantera was from Fort Worth, Dallas, Texas. That's where Vinny and Dime were. That's where Pantera originated. And Phil came from New Orleans to be there. And so when he was dealing with all of this, the back pain and self-medication, drugs, he's doing these hard, he kind of retreated back to his home, which he went fairly often whenever he got a chance. This was the first time I think they were actually away from each other doing vocals, where he was recording vocals here in New Orleans at his home, and the other guys were writing in Dallas. Sheldon says, sometimes magic happens when you least expect it. It happens, though, when every musician in the band is a creative genius. Now, that's a great point, man. R. Lund, welcome, says, Pantera picked up the void Metallica left with the Black Album. Perfect timing. Yeah, that's a great point. Like we covered earlier in this video when we started it, that Metallica was kind of they were changing their style, right? And they're going off and doing some more of the commercial stuff, and they're kind of leaving the like thrash metal that made them so popular in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, and they were kind of going and doing something else. And Pantera was rising up at that time, and they were already making noise in the local scenes before they got signed, and then they went out and did Cowboys from Hell, which was well received, and Vulgar came out and was just boom. But Far Beyond came out and just it filled that void, man. And they kind of became that anti-establishment metal band. It's like all your heroes are going and doing the fucking radio shit, and they're compromising. I wrote a song in Mind Enemy's Fault called Bow to the Pressure, kind of based on Metallica, because they went that direction to get new fans, whereas bands like Pantera and Slayer, they stayed the course and they did whatever they wanted to do. And that realism is what gained them such fierce following from their fans. And even to this day is why people love them. But yeah, great point, man. Excellent point.
Band remained back in Texas. Drummer Vinnie Paul would tell John Wiederhorn, Phil was going through a lot of mental distress, and it's all on that record. You can feel the pain, you can see it, you can hear it, and it affected all of us, no doubt. And Selmo, for his part, would tell the Do You Know Jack radio show his thinking behind recording separately from the band, recalling, on a personal level, I wasn't doing all that well because I was injured. I was making every rookie mistake in the world with pain medication and all that stuff.
Good call.
And I was embarrassed. I didn't want to see anybody, man. I was in a bad way. But Anselmo's bandmates knew what he was up to, as Rex Brown soon noticed he was getting involved in harder drugs. Manager Walter O'Brien would recall in the book Reinventing Metal, It was a constant conflict. It was like pulling teeth. By Great Southern Trendkill, he made Dime fly back and forth with the master tape so he could add vocals and make musical suggestions. That was the real start of the end.
I remember people point to that kind of being, and I've heard this story many times. I heard it from Phil doing interviews as well as Vinny and Dime and all that throughout the years. And I'm fortunate enough to know people that were close to Vinny, and so I hear that side of the story quite a bit as well. But this was kind of just like, this was Phil's start of his distancing from the band. One, for whatever reason, because he's going through this health issue with his back, and now he's doing a lot more drugs and kind of getting into deeper and deeper stuff. It was driving a wedge between him and the rest of his bandmates, and that kind of started stuff. Even though they got back together again, had an awesome tour in 96, had a great tour in 97, Ozfest 98, 2000. Like, they were doing great stuff up to that point still, but Phil was struggling so much that it was really hurting the band. But a lot of people push back to this point and say this is kind of where it started. And it's kind of hard to argue, to be honest with you. And I'm a huge Phil Anselmo fan, but this was probably the beginning of the end. And what a shame, man. What a shame. If this didn't happen, if Phil didn't estrange himself from Pantera in 2001, and if Dime was never murdered, they probably would have got back together at some point. And we could have had maybe 2-3 more albums of Pantera, probably still around to this day doing their thing. And man, kind of robbed, man.
Phil wanted to stay in New Orleans. Communication fell apart. Cooperation was non-existent, and the tone of the album is depressing and confrontational. To this day, I can't listen to the album.
Yeah. Trent Reznor, he recorded his vocals
on May 7th.
Phil recorded his vocals at Trent Reznor's studio in New Orleans. I think he was friends with Trent. I mean, that whole New Orleans music scene down there was a lot of people jammed together, side bands. I even think that Phil had a side band with Trent at one point doing something. I don't know if that ever made the light of day, because I remember back in the day when Down happened, Super Joint 2 happened like right around 98 or 97 before they actually recorded an album, because every time Phil would go back home, he'd just jam with his buddies, Crowbar, I Hate God, all these bands. They just get together and they jam together, and they create a super band or a band here or there. They record demos. Those demos would go out in video or cassette tapes or whatever, and they get filtered out around there. I want to say that there was a band he was in. Maybe somebody correct me out there, but I do believe he was in a band at one point, or at least did a couple songs with Trent Reznor. But yeah, this was his studio that Phil recorded the vocals in.
Trendkill made it clear that Pantera wasn't going to dilute their sound. They didn't care whether.
I'm just gonna say, man, there is no band that looks as badass as Pantera. They just had the fucking look, because they were just doing themselves. I mean, Phil going through this, that phase where he just looked like he was pissed off all the time. They just had the look, and they had the sound. Just, they'll never be touched again. I don't care. It's like Image Comics to me. The Image founders, that era will never be touched again in comics. To me, the metal scene will never be touched again as Pantera in their heyday.
People thought metal was dead or not. This was Pantera doubling down, and it proved to be the band's hardest album to date, with Anselmo's lyrics taking aim at the media as well as drugs, and about a flood that wipes out humanity. The album would debut at number 4 on the Billboard
there's some
charts,
sick lyrics in Great Southern Trendkill
before fading away. Billboard magazine wrote
that's
the
a
album
fact,
off
man.
as a commercial disappointment, as it initially failed to match the success of the group's previous effort. The label attempted to release the song Floods to rock radio in an effort to revive slagging sales, with Greg Thompson, the senior VP of promotion, telling the magazine, "Pantera makes no excuses for what they do. From a promotional standpoint, we did everything we could to further their exposure. Pantera is like fish. A lot of the group's fan base are not active radio listeners. Our job is to increase their base." The album would end up going gold, and nearly a decade later, it was certified platinum.
That's what's so impressive about them, man, is they did everything opposite of what like the big studios wanted them to do. They didn't listen to the advice of these people to go get the bigger fan base and to expand and do all this stuff. They're going to do what they do, and they're going to keep on making more and more fans, because they were the realest band out there. If you guys ever saw Pantera back in the day, saw live performances, I can't play any on here because YouTube will hit me with a strike or something because of the music content. But if you get a chance, go watch a live performance, not just a song here or there. Go watch an entire concert. They're all over the place. Just type in Pantera full concert, pick any era you want. I would say Some of the best stuff is like 95, 96, 97. I think you're going to get some of the best concerts there, fully recorded, bootleg back in the day. But you want to see how a band comes out and just controls the crowd and just performs a show, just being themselves, just being badass. That's why they were so revered and why people love them so much. That and they came out with the home videos, 1, 2, and 3 back in the day, and that was great because you got an insight to their lives. And it was just like pieced together home videos that Dime would take, and it was like live performances and just goofing off and fucking around on the road. That is really what brought their popularity and made them such more like the people's metal band, you know?
That plagued the recording of the record also came back to haunt the group while they were on the road. At a homecoming show on July 13th, 1996 at the Coca-Cola Starplex in Dallas, Texas, Anselmo would suffer a drug overdose and be brought back to life by paramedics. 4 days later, the singer issued a press release to the media. He would talk to MTV about the incident.
They talked about it, man, because they did Dime Vision. Remember when Damage Plan was going on? When Phil was doing Superjoint and Down, and Vinny and Dime decided to do their own thing again. They got a new band together, Damage Plan, which was really good, by the way, too. That's another really awesome band that they had. But they did Dime Vision 1, which was the same thing, same concept, except it was Damage Plan instead of Pantera. Now, there's been talk of, I don't know if it's going to happen anymore, but I remember in 2012 when I went down, I toured Texas for the first time with my band, My Enemies Fall. I met some people down there. One of the guys I met, his name was Warren, cool cat. He was friends with Vinny. So we got to meet Vinny, and when he was doing Hell Yeah, and got to meet the entire band, go to Vinny's house. I've told this story before when Dale was on. But they had talked at that point that there was so much footage that Dime had taken that they were going to put out a Dime Vision 2, and it never happened. But they could. I don't think there'll be another Pantera, although I there's probably got to be a ton of the estate. Dime's estate probably still has a ton of footage from that time. So maybe. You know what's funny about this interview right here is when he sits down with this MTV Headbangers Ball chick. This right here, this interview that they're going to talk about was taken in Kalamazoo, Michigan. That's right down the street from me. Wing Stadium is where they did this interview not too long, like a week or so after he OD'd, and then came back. So I always thought that was kind of cool.
When he was interviewed on Headbangers Ball.
Oh, there's my guy right there. Yeah. You were coming through, Arlund. Yeah, Pantera Kalamazoo live is amazing. That's my backyard. My Enemies Fall was from Kalamazoo, fucking Michigan, as I would say every night on stage. But yeah, that show is, and for the longest time, you couldn't find that footage. You could find like bits and pieces from that Headbangers Ball piece that they put out in Wing Stadium at Kalamazoo. And then just recently, within the last few years, I saw the actual, like, it's only like 30 minutes. It's not the entire performance, I don't think, but the performance at Wings. And I only think they played Wings like a handful of times in their career. My dad, I think, was working on the expansion of Wings because he was a construction worker back in the early 90s when Pantera came through, I think, was Skid Row. And that was always a cool story he told me. But yeah, man, shout out, Arlund. Hell yeah. Good call on that.
All, as you can see here.
Headbangers Ball, definitely. So we're glad to be here.
Yeah, this is
Phil,
at Wing Stadium right here at Kalamazoo.
Is
where this interview is from.
Happened. I mean, that really, really must have shaken you up really badly. How are you feeling?
Watch it go, yes.
I overdosed.
Oh, yeah, I lost the audio for some reason on this for about 30 seconds. Maybe they didn't have the rights to do this actual interview. We basically just goes through about like how he OD'd, how he came back. And what's funny about this, I love Phil. Love you, man. But Phil was such a cocky dude, which is one of the reasons why people loved him so much. But in this interview, he's like, that'll never happen again. Never going to fuck around with that stuff. Never going to do hair. I'm too strong, too mentally strong to do that. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case, my guy. Unfortunately. But this dude right here, this is the epitome of a front man. Everybody wanted to be Phil Anselmo when they were younger. Everybody my age when we were doing metal 10, 15, 20 years ago wanted to have that presence. A lot of people thought that I'm not going to lie. I kind of copied his stage persona. I did. But it wasn't necessarily I was trying to be Phil Anselmo on stage. I was just trying to be that confident, cocky, front man that could talk to the crowd, whether we were playing in front of thousands of people or 10 people. It didn't matter. Like, you got on the stage, and how he talked to the crowd, how he would bullshit is exactly how I would do stuff on stage as well. And this dude set the
everybody
example.
Makes mistakes, but I truly learn from my mistakes, and I have that ability to turn that light switch off. And I'm going to keep that particular light switch off in my life forever.
Good. I'm very pleased to hear that. Yeah. And you said in your statement that it made you realize what you really valued in your life.
Sure.
It's very true. Very true. I used to wake up and dread the day, you know, wake up every time I go to bed. I'd just be like, ugh, I can't really face tomorrow. And really, it was not.
Yeah,
it was.
I got that a lot when I was, especially when because I got my hair long. I kind of dressed a little bit like him because they set the standard for what bands look like, you know.
Time when you're going through something like that, it's tough to see the big picture, but it's pretty easy. Omit that stuff, live happier, you know. So it's just all natural.
I wish he listened to his own advice, man.
A lot closer together, and
I wish he had
taken it not as a negative, but as a positive. You know, it's made us better on stage. It's made us closer as people and as friends too. You know, so you know, always, you know, there's bad things in this world, but hey, if you can take them and turn them into some good, so be it.
Absolutely. But on that same note,
tell us.
After I'd overdosed, the very next night, we played the next night. There's no rehab. There's no trial period of getting the whole band back together. We never lost a step. And I think that took a lot of character from everybody on our crew and our band and stuff. And I think that, you know, they deserve.
We got AZHQ in the house. I missed you, man. Good to see you. With mates like Lane Staley, yeah. How much money he had and pressure, almost impossible to stay clean, I reckon. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing back then, man. I mean, there was so much heroin and shit going on, and other drugs, you know, obviously cocaine, you know, weed, which is, you know, whatever, that's fine, you know, but there was some hard shit. Yeah, it's hard in that, even in the indie scene, we saw that shit in the indie scene. We saw obviously meth, cocaine, heroin. You know, it's just something, for some reason, it leaks its way into that music scene, whether you're indie, whether you're giant rock stars. It's hard to kind of avoid, man. And once you go down that path, unfortunately, it's hard to come back from.
To be commended on that, and I thank them.
He would tell VH1's Behind the Music that he had an enormous amount of shame and relapsed a few more times since then while he was with Pantera. In the years that followed, Anselmo would refer to the album as a dark horse record for the band, and Vinnie Paul would look back saying he had trouble listening to the album given the circumstances it was recorded under. But,
you know, that sucks too, because they only play like, I mean, honestly, now in their newer stuff or their new sets, they play like Suicide Note Part 2. But when this album came out, they went and toured on it, and I think they only played like 3 or 4 songs. Some of the songs they wrote on this album were so hard to play that they couldn't perform it live. So they stuck with their popular stuff. They played like War Nerve, which is a badass song. Suicide Note Part 2 obviously was great. Sandblasted Skin. But after that, I mean, think about some of these songs. You don't hear a lot of the songs from these albums played live. I think I heard 13 Steps. I found one live performance of 13 Steps. I thought it actually sounded pretty good. But that's pretty much it.
Musician Moby would defend the album, telling Classic
Moby
so unrelentingly dark.
He is correct here, though.
War Nerve are the most unrelentingly evil lyrics you can imagine. They make church-burning Norwegian Satanists.
Yeah, go read the lyrics to Great Southern Trendkill.
Anselmo would tell the
There's definitely some pain there coming from a writer myself, songwriter myself.
Crowds on their tour due to the state of
definitely
heavy
poured
metal.
that into the album.
Our road manager approached me and he said, "Phil, you know, man, don't expect sold-out shows. Heavy metal's on its way out. Kids are listening to different stuff, and it's going to be rough. Don't expect this, don't expect that." And I was like, great, I appreciate the pep talk. But the best thing that remedied this bullshit diatribe was that he was dead wrong. That first show was packed to the gills, sold out, as were most of the other ones. I think as a perfect segue, when we cover Pantera's fall,
he was definitely high
album, Reinventing the Steel, would be something that bassist Rex Brown told John Wiederhorn, saying, "I'm still not crazy about 2 or 3 songs on there, but there's a lot of good stuff on there." After we made that record, Phil got his expletive together and we toured. We were one of the biggest bands out there. We did the second Ozfest, which was great money.
Oh, they dominated Ozfest in '98. Yeah, if you go back and watch some of those Ozfest, what I like about the Ozfest stuff is their sets were a little bit shorter. So usually Pantera would play for like an hour and a half, mostly because they would fuck around a lot in between songs, which was what made their live show great. That's why you went to see Pantera, is to see Phil Anselmo rant and talk about whatever he was going to talk about, and the brothers do, you know, fun shit with the crowd, everything you would see in the, you know, the videos and all that stuff. But they had to have a tighter set with the Ozfest stuff because they were played right before Ozzy. And so you're talking about 45 minutes to an hour, and they just went in and killed it. Boom, their set was amazing. So go back and look at some of the stuff from live performances from '98, especially the Ozfest stuff.
We played through '98.
Great stuff.
And then we did the Black Sabbath reunion in '99. By the end, we were all completely worn out and we needed a break. But every time
AZHQ said, plus he was with Trent Reznor recording this, who also loved that smack. Yeah, he surrounded himself with some bad people. I mean, honestly, he probably should have stayed in Dallas and Fort Worth around the brothers and around Rex. Would probably have been a lot better for his health than going back home to New Orleans to all the guys where it seemed like that was the thing to do. Hard drugs, especially heroin, and just kind of getting lost in that music scene. Like that was kind of his mistake right there. Yeah, absolutely.
we tried to stop, something came up that we couldn't turn down. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe, and we'll see you again in Rock and Roll True Story.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. My favorite band, Pantera, right there, guys. Definitely go if you new to Pantera, which is fine. People are. Go check them out. If you like heavy metal, if you like great riffs, definitely do that. Let me see if I can find something real quick of myself, and I'll show you how much I patterned myself after Phil. It wasn't necessarily that I did it on purpose, where I'm like, I'm going to be the new Phil Anselmo. It was just kind of, I'd watched so many live performances of Phil that when I started doing the frontman stuff, I was like, this is how a frontman acts. This is how a frontman talks, you know, like, so there's a certain way you talk to the crowd. You got to talk to the crowd. Let me see if I can, what one is a good one here. I don't know if this is a good representation or not. I probably had better ones out there where I definitely went on some rants myself. That definitely happened. Trust me. This was My Band, Mine Enemies Fall. Look at that handsome young man right there with the lady killer hair. That's what you're talking about. Heroin addicts can go for years functioning. Yeah, I knew some personally people that dabble with that stuff, and unfortunately took them in the end. So yeah, that is absolutely true. That's another irony. Phil would be in healthier environment hanging out with alcoholics. Yeah, that's absolutely true. We'll have to split. Love the show. Joe was a great show. Hail Reaper Destroyer 2 Type 1 and Reaper Reset. Let's go, man. Let's go. I'm not going to play all of this, but I just want to show you it's such a, and this might not be the best representation. I don't know. But this is 2014 Rocklahoma, Mine Enemies Fall. This was a full concert.
I love it, man. Shit. It's like a little boy. I giggle every time I see titties. It's weird. This next song is off our Bastard Machine EP. And I want to see a fucking pit, and I want to see all my headbangers. I want to see all the titties in the world just flopping the fuck around. This one goes out to all the fucking mainstream media and the bullshit controlled politics and the political correct motherfuckers that are ruining this goddamn country. And all the strong-minded motherfuckers who I feel are here that don't buy into any of that goddamn bullshit, all right? Fuck your federal government, man.
Oh, yeah.
We the people. This one is called Goddamn Death Threat.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I missed that shit. Definitely a young man's game with that. Definitely a young man's game. I can't be doing that kind of stuff anymore. I like doing the comic books, and it's fun to look back at my time in the indie music scene, kicking ass.